Marks Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and one Rockford woman helps out her community by creating a safe space for others to talk about their personal struggles. Meet Jeanette Towns, who was diagnosed with bipolar disorder back in 1995. And now, after 10 years of navigating her diagnosis, she advocates for mental health online. Towns launched an Eliminating Mental Health Stigma Facebook group in 2019. It's become a safe haven for others struggling with mental health. Towns hopes by overcoming her struggles, she could help others navigate their journeys.
Nowadays, people are more willing to talk about mental health issues. Ever since the pandemic, people began to reach out. People began to say, hey, I think I'm having some issues. I think I need someone to talk to.